Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Just a couple of quick announcements. As a follow-up to the roll call yesterday, is Virgin Islands in the House? Virgin Islands. The Virgin Islands. No? Okay. Thank you. A couple of other messages from the security forces. I'm sorry. You're from the Virgin Islands? Okay, thank you. You could have been from the Virgin Islands.
Are you sure you're not from the Virgin Islands?
All right. Okay, from the security forces, if we could have all participants exit through the J Hall, exit from J Hall through the K Hall doors into the exhibit areas. So basically, go out that way, do not go out that way. Got it? Thank you. All right, another one. The banquet will require badges and meal tickets for entrance. So if you have any attendees for the banquet who have perhaps misplaced their meal ticket or their badge, please make sure they go back to the registration booth today before they close at 1400. So you will have to have your badge and meal ticket for entrance into the banquet this year. Thank you.
All right, and Chairman Scott Casimir for any host state announcements.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. First of all, I've been working with our great 207th weather flight for the great state of Indiana. And if you haven't seen the weather, it's going to be high as 79 and no humidity tonight. It's going to be an outstanding night for our military park. With that being said, again, repeat the announcement from yesterday that they'll be ready to receive the areas at 1400 today. If you need airport transportation on Wednesday, again, please come to the Ops Center at room 141 so we can sign you up and we're tracking on everything. Parking for hospitality night will be available across the street on the east side of the military park at the Indianapolis Historical Society from 1730 to 2230. If you require any assistance for transportation to the event this evening, it is only a half-mile away, so it's closer than the first night. Transportation will be available tonight if you need it, starting at 1745, and we'll be picking up from all three locations. So we'll be picking up from here at the Canopy, and then both hotels as well. That's all I have right now, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right, Brian, let's pull them.
All right, our first raffle winner for this morning is Joyce Saida, S-A-I-T-T-A. Good.
I think we're getting lucky with people actually being present. That's pretty good.
I'm going to actually give you a choice. You want this, it's a golf starter kit for children, or you can get this shower Bluetooth and this beautiful patriotic hat. All right, outstanding. Our second winner is Wyatt Davis out of the state of Utah. Got yourself a ammo holder as well as a ammo pouch. Outstanding. And our third winner of the morning is Amanda Rybach, R-E-B-I-C-H, Ribbich, Amanda Ribbich. Hoorah.
Wow.
And you got yourself some safety glasses and a patriotic hat, sponsored by corporate partners. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thanks, Brian. All right, so you heard, what was it, high of 79 and no humidity? While he said that, I got a heat advisory issued Tuesday for southeast Louisiana, so I guarantee those conditions will not be in 2016, zero humidity or any of that business. Guarantee you. So I have to run over to the auxiliary I'm going to turn the gavel over to Vice President Scott Evans. So, Madam Secretary, let the record reflect. I think we're a little early, so you may want to skip those. Okay.
Okay, we'll now call on legislative update, NGBLL. Sergeant Major John Edwards, are you in the room? I didn't see him. No? Is, oh, there he is, okay. And Chief Master Sergeant Nick Swift.
All right, good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? I want to just thank you for attending this conference here, and also thanks to EANGUS for allowing us to come and just have a few minutes with you and talk about what we do in NGBLL. And what we want to just kind of convey today is just remind the forum here that there is an office working with the Chief National Guard Bureau that is on the Hill daily. Sometimes we have communication hourly with the Hill that is working legislative issues for the National Guard as a whole, for the Air National Guard and the Army National Guard, and along with our joint staff. And again, my colleagues is Chief Master Sergeant Nikki Swift, and also she handles the Air Guard portfolio. I handle the Army Guard portfolio. And our joint programs is handled by Master Sergeant Jason Bichau. And also, what we want to convey today is not only what we do there in the office quickly but just kind of give you an update, some hot topics, what the Hill is interested in with what we do in the office, and where we feel the state of play is with kind of NDAA and the appropriates bills. All right, I'm going to turn it over now to Chief Swift.
Morning, everyone. I'm used to walking back and forth, so this might be a little bit difficult for me to stand right here. I'm going to give you a 101 on the organization and how we're laid out, because a lot of people don't know that we exist or what we do. So I'm going to give you, like I said, a quick 101 on how we're laid out. So at the top of this slide, we have the director, who is Brigadier General Timothy Cathcart. He works directly for General Grass. We have a deputy director who is Army, Colonel Morath, and then we have a programs division chief, which is Colonel Finnerty. Under Colonel Finnerty, we are broken out into 3 separate teams. We have an air team, an Army team, and a joint team. What is most important about this aspect, I believe, is that there's an enlisted member on each team. We provide a different perspective, a little bit different information. We bring a little bit different things to the team. So our areas are huge, so we're broken out into portfolios. Things are just too, our topics are too broad to be all in one. Also, that we have a support operations division. What's important about this division is that we have a congressional activities branch. 2 extremely talented, smart contractors that work for us. What they do is they live every day to keep updated on legislation, read legislation, break it down, provide summaries for us. They are the key and the backbone to our team. That's how I like to think of them anyway. The reason I'm pointing them out is because if you go out to our NGBLL website, all the resources that they provide to us, they provide to you. So you guys have the same information that we do. We have embedded officers that are located all over. We have some in OSD, some in SAF. They are our teammates as well. They're a very important aspect of our team. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. This is our playground. A lot of people think that the work is done right in the middle. It's actually done on the buildings on the outside. 3 of those buildings are Senate buildings, 3 of those buildings are House buildings, and that's where we work on a daily basis, just to give you an aspect of our office space.
Good morning, everyone. A little bit of our interaction
overview of what we do when we interact with Congress, some of the things we do and don't do when we're up on the Hill. First and foremost is communicate. We talk with folks, therefore we manage information as it flows to and from the Hill with regards to anything that has anything to do with the President's budget and Chief of the National Guard Bureau's priorities. We advise the leadership on when and how to engage in the Hill, and we prepare and escort those NGB personnel up to the Hill. We're all responsible, as Chief said, for certain portfolios within what we do, and within those portfolios we all have principals that we're responsible for, be they the Chief of the National Guard Bureau himself, the Director of the Army Guard, the Director of the Air Guard, the CSMs, and the chiefs that are their counterparts on the enlisted side as well, too. I'm responsible for Chief Brush quite frequently when he goes up to the Hill to prepare him, as well as some of the joint program staff, the principals, the general officers that are up there. Chief Swift has, Chief Hoteling, I think, is your responsible, and Sergeant Major has, Sergeant Major Conley. What we do is we prepare those folks when they go up the Hill to engage with congressmen, congresswomen, senators, and so forth when they're asked to go up there and give a discussion regarding any specific topic they might go up and discuss. So we prepare them with one-pagers maybe on the information at hand that they're asked to discuss, as well as kind of some information, some background information on that representative or senator that they're about to engage with, so that they can walk in prepared to have a good discussion with those folks. The situational awareness that we provide to them is vital oftentimes, just to make sure that we don't go up there sending an inappropriate message or a ununified message. It's one of the key elements, is making sure that our message is always unified up on the Hill. A couple of the things that we don't do: we don't interpret the law. We have JAGs that do that. None of us is a lawyer. We actually have backgrounds out there, excuse me, within the National Guard, within our own MOSs, and most specifically, we do not lobby when we're up on the Hill. A little bit of the key actors, as Chief says, and we like very much, we have our little playground up there that we call it, and when you see that picture, we go up and deal with these folks, and we're carrying folks back and forth. They're represented in the middle of this slide, when you've got Congress, the members themselves, and then the key element of the folks that we work with, which is actually their staff members, the staff members that work for them, the legislative directors, the military legislative assistants, and so forth. The committees that their members, that the members are a part of, that they're assigned to. Specifically for our take, the Senate Armed Services Committee, the House Armed Services Committee, and then the subcommittees therein underneath those. And the professional staff members as well that work for those committees are some of the key players that we work with basically on a day-to-day basis. When you talk about legislation and writing bills, editing bills, and so forth, we're the ones that are communicating back and forth between those people and the staff at the National Guard Bureau, what the state of affairs are, and making sure that there's a proper line of communication back and forth. Along the outside of this slide, you'll see a lot of the key players and all of the key information and inputs that Congress gets from every angle. Within DOD, all of those players, like Chief said, that we have embedded into these organizations, like Office of Secretary of Defense and the Army and the Air Force liaisons that we have out there. The associations that feed Congress as well, which is one of them is right here, EANGUS. Going around to the other side, the states, the governors, the adjutants, generals, right down to the unit level, industry, business and lobbyists, and most importantly, constituents and taxpayers. These are the folks that all have a play up on the Hill within their respective member of Congress, be they a representative or a senator. A couple of the key caucuses that have an impact on what we do on a daily basis and what you all do on a daily basis within the National Guard is the Senate National Guard Caucus and the House Guard and Reserve Caucus. We like to say some of these folks are our champions that are out there. They're out there advocating for our needs as National Guardsmen and National Guardswomen all the time. On the Senate side, Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator Patrick Leahy, Republican and Democrat respectively. And then on the House Guard and Reserve Caucus, Representative Tim Walz from Minnesota is a retired Command Sergeant Major, still serving up there on the Hill. And then Representative Stephen Palazzo, currently serving Staff Sergeant from the state of Mississippi. So we have a lot of helpers up there. On the House side, I believe, when we had a meeting recently with Congressman Wall's staff, something to the effect of 165 members of Congress are signed into the House Guard and Reserve Caucus, which is fully about a third of the size of Congress. And so when they all pitch in together and want to support a topic, that's a third of Congress that's on our side all of a sudden as a National Guard member. So this is a pretty big caucus, a pretty big ally to have on our side, and the Guard gets a lot of love up on the Hill a lot of times because, as we like to say, there's pretty much no district that has no Guard presence in it. They all do, with all the 2,600 Army Guard armories and I think about 80 or so Air Guard facilities as well. I'll turn it back over to the Sergeant Major.
All right, so kind of the way ahead that we see with, as you know, the two bills that predominantly that we're interested in is the National Defense Authorization Act and also the Defense Appropriations Act. I would want to say kind of historically, both chambers pass an NDAA before they go on their August recess, which they're both on recess right now. This year, that didn't happen. We thought it was going to get passed before they went on recess, but there were some issues that were in the NDAA that couldn't be resolved yet. So they're going to come back, both chambers are going to come back from recess after August, and they're going to continue conferencing the NDAA. We feel pretty confident it is going to pass this year and go to the President for his signature. Remain hopeful, right? Defense Appropriations Act, it's only passed in the House. That was in January. The Senate still hasn't passed the appropriations bill, their version of it, because there were some contentious issues that they couldn't get resolved. Some of those were, Guantanamo Bay, some BAH issues that affect us and all the services. So the House Appropriations Committee is already working on now a 2 to 3 month short-term continuing resolution. They only pretty much have one shot when they come back from recess to pass a continuing resolution. If they don't get that passed, then we're going to be headed towards another government shutdown. So I'm sure most of you have been following this in the news and kind of hearing that. I think the last time this happened was back in 2013 when we had a government shutdown. But there has been talks throughout the summer here that we were moving towards a continuing resolution, and we are preparing to look at the impacts, how that would affect the National Guard as a whole on both the Air and the Army side. Looking at it from a perspective, not only a 2 to 3 month CR, but also what would a long-term continuing resolution, how would that affect us? And as you may know, it is kind of, there are some risk areas associated with a CR because we can't have any new starts for acquisition. It affects the NGREA account tremendously because the NGREA account is not part of the President's budget. So when a CR isn't enacted, it's at the, this year, it will be at the FY15 funding level. So since NGREA is basically a congressional ad, that money, that funding wouldn't be available until an actual bill, appropriations bill is passed. Okay, I got the slide thing here. I'm going to transition now. So hot topics for both, all three teams. And when I mention a hot topic, these specific items are what has interest up on the Hill. It's not all inclusive of what we deal with in the office. It's what Congress is focused on right now. There are other priorities, such as the director's priorities, that is important to the Army National Guard, and then the Air National Guard, the Air Chief has, the Air Guard Director has his priorities as well. We'll interweave those priorities into our discussions with the staffers, with the congressmen and women, and the senators up on the Hill. Some of those priorities, if they lack the funding that we actually need, it would be considered a risk area. Or if it has the appropriate funding, but it doesn't quite have the authorities that we need, we'll look to have some of those authorities modified. So that's how we'll convey some of that information up to the Hill. But AC, RC mix, what is the proper mix between the active component and the National Guard and the Reserve? That's an important topic up on the Hill. As you may know, there is an Army Commission that's currently underway that is supposed to be taking a look at the proper mix for that. That commission is going to report out 1 February of 2016. So we're going to see if it's going to be on time or if it's going to be a little bit of a delayed report. Hopefully it'll be on time. And previously, the Air Guard and the Air Force, when they had their friction points and there was a commission, it was positive for the Air Guard. So we're hopeful that the Army Commission will also be positive for us. Health of the force, quality of life, that's always a interest level on the Hill because, as Master Sergeant Bouchard just mentioned, they're in all districts, so the Guard is a constituent to Capitol Hill. Aviation Restructuring Initiative, has everybody heard of that? That's part of the friction points between the Army and the Army National Guard. For the last 2 years, that's fallen in my portfolio of responsibility. I've been dealing with that for about 24 months now, and it's where the Army wants to move all the attack aviation out of the Guard into the Army. So that's been a heavy push for us to try to get that delayed enough so that the Commission can take a look at that as well. FY 2016 budget. Congress is always interested in our budgets every year just to make sure we have enough to operate. 2016 budget was better than 15. However, if we go into a continuing resolution, it's going to be at the FY15 level, so that's not going to be very good for us. There will be some risk areas, as I mentioned before. And then National Guard sports sponsorships and marketing, that doesn't seem to ever go away. A couple years ago, we've been dealing with the NASCAR sponsorships, which we no longer, NASCAR, IndyCar, any kind of motorsports sponsorship. We couldn't provide really a return on investment to Congress, so we've taken a step back from that and reevaluating that program. And then marketing, Congress is very interested in how we conduct our marketing contracts. As you may know, there's some interest with the National Football League contracts that we've had. It's a perception that maybe the Guard paid for patriotism, paid for soldiers to be highlighted up on big screens and soldiers to get to go out on the football field and, wave flags and stuff like that. So don't think we did that, but Congress is digging into that right now and asking for information to evaluate some of our contracting processes. So again, those are hot topics that affect the Army National Guard. I'm going to turn it over to the Chief now.
So the topics we have listed are pretty broad. If anyone has ever heard General Clark speak, you've heard these before. Modernization and recapitalization, emerging missions, and ACRC mix. Of course, we have some more defined hot topics that we work on a continual basis, the C-130 AMP, the F-16, the AESA radars. We have some FAA and runway lease issues right now. Cyber is a hot topic, I think, for all the teams here. RC-26, we have some specific issues, but we keep all of our education to and from the Hill confined to these 3 general categories, basically, because they all fall under the 3.
And then for the joint programs, we like to list some of these programs out, not necessarily because they have any contentious issues, but just because we like to make sure we have our finger on the pulse of a lot of these topics. One of the things that my colleagues always like to say is joint programs get a lot of love up on the Hill, so we don't have a whole lot of contention a lot of times for some of our things. Congressional members tend to like what we're trying to do oftentimes. Psychological health, obviously, always a big topic when you're talking about soldiers and airmen returning from theater and who have returned from theater with any issues. So we keep an eye on those kind of topics to make sure that they're discussed up on the Hill, that they've got appropriate funding. Technician pay and benefits is probably one place where there does end up being some contention sometimes up on the Hill with regards to mil techs and statuses and so forth. Southwest border, counter-drug, we just kind of try to keep our pulse on those as well to make sure that they're funded at the appropriate levels. State partnership program, same kind of idea as the funding for the program tends to come from multiple different pots, and there's a push out there maybe for next year to try to get them a dedicated source of funding instead of trying to pull pull from other pots all the time so that there's a much more solid mission, because that's been such a great program for over 20 years. And then the Youth Challenge program has a lot of advocates out there as well, too, because it's across, I believe it's about 27 states right now that have programs. I think there's about 36 programs, and it continues to grow. As I know there's 2 or 3 states out here right now that are actively getting ready to start researching or are going to start up those programs as well. And this is our contact information, and we're happy to discuss things afterwards as well, too. We've all got our business cards. Sergeant Major? Questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Sergeant Major, Chief, Master Sergeant, thank you. Thank you for the work you do for our soldiers and our airmen and our organization. Thank you for taking time in your schedules to be here. We appreciate it. Thank you. At this time, we'd like to recognize our corporate partners. Are they? I'm assuming they're all in the room. I see people shuttling in, and it's not younger folks, because I think they're still sleeping. So I'm going to rattle them off. If they would come up front here, please. Everybody knows we wouldn't be able to do what we do as an association without our corporate partners. So first off, our affinity partners, USAA, University of Phoenix, our platinum partners, Humana Military, ADS, AFBA, American Equity, American Military University, Exhibit Promotions Plus, Excelsior College, Grand Canyon University, Grantham University, MetLife, Military Benefit Association, United Healthcare, the Heritage Group, Southwest Truck Driver Training, I'll be calling you when I retire, American Intercontinental University, our gold partners, Air Force Enlisted Village, Management and Training Consultants, our silver partners, Ashford University, Columbia College, Leatherman, Luther Sales, Thomas Edison State College, Southern New Hampshire University, and Sikorsky, and our bronze partners, Degree Quest, Delta Dental, R&R Promotions, Speedy Prep, Voya Financial, Carlda, Immediate Response Technology, the Old Glory Coffee Company, and Trident University International. Thank you, our corporate. Publications last. Okay. Are you ready, Andy? We are looking for the cameraman. Anybody see the cameraman? They're still working. Someone can take your camera? Oh, we can do that. Okay. We will now have the Publications Committee report and awards presented by Sergeant Major Retired Andrew Strauss.
Good morning. The first two awards we're giving out was because of my screw-up last year. I didn't have awards for anybody. So the very first two we're giving out are for 2014. I'm going to call both of the winners. In Category 1, there was Bucky's Bulletin, Wisconsin National Guard, and in Category 2, The Voice, Ohio National Guard. If you both come forward, you will get your 2014 awards. The other two winners were both for auxiliary awards, Area 6, Virginia National Guard, and Area 7, Area 5 auxiliary. Those will be given out tomorrow at the auxiliary meeting. 2015, the publication committee met this morning, even though the judging was done a while back. Our main discussion, and I need to put that out to you, was on the New Patriot magazine. It was voted by the board that the New Patriot magazine would be done in-house, which meant we didn't have to spend $50,000 a year or $50,000 a quarter to a management company to put it together. The only way this is going to work is if everyone in this room, the directors, make sure that your states get us information that you want to see in your magazine. It's the only way this publication will work. So if you have something that's going into your state newsletter or magazine, send it to National. Let National see it. Not everything's going to get in there, but what I would love to see as the publication chair is to open the New Patriot and literally have Area 1, Area 2, Area 3, all the way through, a page for every area of what's happening and what you're doing, and then the rest of the magazine would be national information, benefits, things that our members would love to see as well. So please, get involved. Category 1, commercial entry, there were no entries. Category 2, semi-commercial entry. There was one entry, and the winner is The Voice, Ohio Enlisted Association. While they're coming up, we had twice as many entries this year as we did last year. Thank you very much. But I would like to see a minimum of 25 to 30 entries a year. We have 50 states and 4 territories, plus